Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, or that conviction, slowly converts our life into a life of yoga. That's what we discussed in the morning. Before we proceed to describe this life of yoga, we should also spend some time with the third aspect of our life, which is Ishvara. We said that Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, these three entities make up our life. We talked about Jiva is a whole and complete being. Jagat consists of names and forms and objects which have usefulness in my life, utility in my life, but other than that, they're innocent things. Neither sources of pleasure nor sources of pain. Then, now we come to Ishvara. Let us tentatively call Ishvara the reality behind this universe. The reality behind the universe, let us call that Ishvara. And when you look at the universe, one thing becomes very clear, that there are various laws which govern the different phenomena of this physical universe. We are familiar with a number of laws which are taught to us by science, which seek to explain the various happenings or various phenomena happening around us. So the laws of material sciences, laws of physics and chemistry and every science has its own laws, call them all laws of material sciences. And we can also infer or presume that all these laws must be manifestation of some more fundamental law. There are various laws in physics cannot be independent of what is happening in chemistry, cannot be independent of what is happening in biology, because ultimately, whether it is matter, whether it is a chemical, whether it is a cell, all of these ultimately reduce to the same fundamental reality. And therefore, there must be a fundamental law, which in fact manifests itself as all these various laws, whether it's a law of gravity or various things, So all these laws that we are familiar with, which govern our daily life, all of these must be expressions of one fundamental law. And we may say that fundamental law, which Swami calls it order, let us say that is Ishvara. That's the immediate perceptible expression of Ishvara. To us, what is most perceptible, how we experience Ishvara directly, is in the form of that fundamental order or harmony, which informs all the phenomena. Whatever happens within the framework of that harmony or law. And that is why the scientists are able to do what they can do, because things are predictable, because they follow a certain pattern. And that is why we can predict what will happen when you boil water, when you boil milk, when you throw something. All of this we can predict because all of these phenomena are governed by or they function within the framework of laws. So there is predictability, therefore there is reasoning, therefore there is science. So this law, call it Ishvara. Now of course, scientists in their own way are in search of this fundamental law, which they call unified field or whatever kind of name they give. Different fields are there, weak field and strong field, and that they believe that all of these ultimately should reduce to one field, call it unified field or the fundamental law. However, the way the scientists are investigating the reality is with the presumption that the reality is material, meaning that they're always looking at the material world in search of reality, in search of that fundamental law or that fundamental building block that can explain all material phenomena. But in their investigation, they do not take into account our mind, meaning that the emotional phenomena, those things are not taken into account because they do not become the objects of investigation, let alone consciousness. Unless you assume that consciousness is the property of matter, therefore by understanding matter, you will understand consciousness. With that assumption, perhaps you can imagine that you are searching for the fundamental truth. But universe consists not only of the physical objects, it also includes not only our own physical body, it includes our organs of perception, organs of action, our mind, our emotions, all these moral phenomena, everything must be included because all of these are part of the universe. Universe is not merely the gross material thing that we perceive outside, but then all these subtle matter also of which our mind etc. is made, all of this is part of universe, and therefore there must be a fundamental reality which informs all of this. That is what you call Ishvara. Our Swami talks about different kinds of orders. A physical order, a physiological order, a psychological order, etc. Psychological order that can explain the functioning of the mind, physiological order that can explain the functioning of the body, physical order that can explain the functioning of the physical matter, etc. But ultimately, all of these different orders have to be the expressions of one fundamental order, which should explain everything, or which should govern everything, which should inform everything. That is Ishvara. Without making it very technical, let us see how Bhagavad Gita shows that order. How does it apply in our life, let us say. What can we immediately learn from universe, which is a manifestation of Ishvara? What can we immediately learn? In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna draws our attention to the ordinary phenomena. Lord Krishna says, Annad bhavanti bhutani, parjanyad anna sambhavah, yajnad bhavati parjanyah, yajnah karma samudbhavah. Says, look Arjuna, all the beings are born of food and sustained by food. Naturally, our body is a product of food, is sustained by food. Meaning that all the beings are born of food. Food which was consumed by our parents, assimilated by them, and that is how we are product of that assimilated food. That's very clear. We don't need Bhagavad Gita to tell us that. But still, Annad bhavanti bhutani, all the beings are all born of food. Second step, Parjanyad anna sambhavah. And the food is born of rain. And that also is very clear to us. Then Lord Krishna says, Yajnad bhavati parjanya. What is that brings about rain? Apart from the physical phenomena of absorption of water and conversion into clouds, and that is okay. But still, that rain comes at a certain place, does not come at some other place. So what is it that brings about that rain? What is that makes this life possible? Food makes the life possible. Rain makes the food possible. What makes the rain possible? That's what makes the life possible ultimately. So Lord Krishna says, Yajnat bhavati parjanya. This parjanya, or the rain, or the phenomenal source of life is yajna. Yajna means offering. In fact, yajna means worship. Yaj means to worship. But then, yajna is traditionally a fire ritual where we invoke the fire in gods in the fire and make offerings to gods in the fire. That process of offering is called yajna. And so Lord Krishna says that it is from yajna, it is from process of offering, it is from what we call the sacrifice. That is what sustains the whole universe. If food sustains our life, and rain sustains the food, and yajna sustains the rain, that means that the whole life is sustained by yajna. This is a Vedic principle. The reason why in the Vedas we find yajna as the most important ceremony and most sacred ceremony is because of this perception that life is sustained by yajna. And when you perform yajna, the most important task in the yajna is making the offering. Other things are all preparations. You collect the wood and then you pile up the wood and then you kindle the fire. All of this is fine, but the heart of what we call yajna is the offering. It's called dravya tyagaha, offering of the material of worship. Thus Lord Krishna is saying that what sustains the whole universe, what sustains the harmony in the universe is yajna or the principle of sacrifice. So this is how we can understand the most immediate, perceptible or experienceable effect of Ishvara is in the form of yajna. So as for the practical, as far as we are concerned, what is the experience of Ishvara is nothing but the yajna that is going on in the whole cosmos. You can say that a cosmic yajna or a cosmic sacrifice is going on. So Lord Krishna draws our attention to this fact that wherever we look in the universe, we find only the spirit of self-offering everywhere. Look anywhere, look at the five elements, the space, air, fire, water, earth, all of these are simply meant to offer themselves. The earth offers itself by giving us support, giving us food, giving us our life. So earth is all that is doing is only offering itself, serving, offering itself. That's what water also does, sustains our life and does many other things for us and for all living beings. So also fire, so also air, so also space. If you look at the purpose of all this elemental universe, we find that the purpose is nothing but serving the living beings. And if you see what other living beings do, they all serve the human being. But first of all, let us see how the whole universe is so designed as to serve. The spirit of serving, self-offering, not offering something else, offering yourself. See, when you perform the puja, it's one thing to get mala from the florist, flower mala from florist, and you get the garments for the Lord from the tailor, and you get the food from mother, whatever, and then offer it to Lord. That's okay. But the real puja is when you make your own mala, when you make your own ornaments, when you make your own garments, when you make the food yourself for the Lord, then really it is you who is, otherwise you are an agent. Otherwise you are offering what is all given by somebody else. But when you do things yourself, that is when so in the universe, it is not that sun is offering something, he offers himself. The sun is constantly shining and burning and heating and evaporating water, converting them to clouds and causing the rain, and that's how sustaining the life of all the living beings. He also is source of all the energy on the earth and everywhere. He is source of light, and he just keeps doing everything. He offers himself. That's why one of the names of sun is Pushan. Pushan means one who is a nourisher because he is constantly nourishing us. The moon also offers himself. By the rays, the moon showers the nectar, which gets transformed into the vegetables and plants and herbs, and that becomes our food, and that's how moon also contributes. Every atom, everything that is created seems to have one purpose, and that is to offer itself in the scheme of things, so that there is a harmony in the whole functioning of the universe. Meaning that what sustains the harmony? Why is it that we find that in the universe there is harmony? That everything seems to be functioning comfortably with everything else. There are no star wars. Meaning that I don't know what Star War is, I have not seen it, but I believe stars are fighting with each other. Is that what Star War is? I don't know. But we don't find stars fighting with each other. You don't find things competing. Sun and moon are not competing with each other. Everything does its job. Everything has its own place. The sun rises in the morning and at the appointed time sun sets and goes away and gives its place to moon. So that now moon can shine. Now it can have all the attention and it can have the glorification. Otherwise, if sun insisted on not giving up his chair or position, then poor moon would have no opportunity at all to show itself up, but then sun goes away. If the moon shines, stars cannot show up. So moon also in its own time retires and lets the stars shine. Stars also sometimes retire. Let the clouds shine so that the lightning can shine. See how beautiful. Here once you give me some position, I won't give it up. I won't let anybody come in there. Even these words are uttered and they're heard by you, and they reveal their meaning in your mind. These words which are heard reveal their meaning in the mind. When can the words reveal their meaning? When the word actually retires. When the word ceases to be, then in the silence the meaning is revealed. Is it not so? So the word offers itself, sacrifices itself for the meaning to take place in your mind. Everything is like this. Wherever you look, from an atom all the way up to all the galaxies, it is self-offering. Self-sacrifice or self-offering. So yajna means self-offering. Not just offering, but self-offering. It is that spirit which in fact keeps everything together. Everything is connected with everything else. There is a bond which is there in the whole universe which keeps the whole universe together. It doesn't fall apart. Otherwise, the universe consists of such diversity and such variety. And how vast it is. And still, everything is in some way connected to everything else. Whether we see the connection or not. Because scientists also tell us that every atom in this universe is connected to some atom in some other universe, and I don't know, it's all very intricate. But all I understand in simple words is that everything seems to be connected to everything else. Even though we look like earth is here and space is there and heavens are there and sun is there, unconnected looks like, but everything is connected by some factor, some thread that connects everything. Lord Krishna says, Mai sarvidam protam sutre maniganaiva, that all this whole universe is threaded into me. Lord Krishna says, I am the thread in which all of this is threaded. Unseen thread. And therefore, even though earth and heavens may look apart, but they are connected. Even though you and I may look apart, we are all connected in some way. And sometimes these connections become very evident to us. Usually you don't see them. This other day that I went to a bus stop, this is many years ago, to take a class. And I waited for about half an hour. Bus did not turn up. Then I inquired. Said, Swami, you don't know? Buses are not plying these days. What happened? There's no fuel. They've run out of diesel. All right. How come they run out of diesel? Because they're not producing in refineries. The production has become very slow, so they don't get enough supply. Why the production becomes slow? Because the workers are working according to rule. See, this is an expression in India, work according to rule, which means the work doesn't happen, that's what it looks like. So because all the workers in refinery are working according to rule. That's why the production has come down. That's why there is no adequate supply. That's why the buses cannot run. How come they are working according to rule? Because the leader of their union, who is located in Delhi, has told them to do that. Some union contracts and negotiations were going on, some problems were there. Therefore, this union leader instructed all members of the union everywhere to work according to rule. Therefore, the production in the refineries was much reduced. Therefore, there was not adequate supply of fuel. Therefore, the buses did not get the diesel. Therefore, I did not get the bus. So how I am connected with this fellow in Delhi? See how the connection is. This fellow sitting in Delhi, how I am connected, It is so. Usually these connections we don't see, we don't become evident, but when something like this happens, then we realize how things are all connected to each other. How what I do can affect you and vice versa. We sometimes just do not know this as to how what we do can affect so many others. But the idea is that there is a connecting thread. There is a thread that connects the whole universe. It is not some kind of physical thread, but there is a principle that connects. That principle is called Ishvara. Mai sarvidam protam sutre maniganaiva. Everything is like the beads which are threaded in a thread. So also Lord Krishna says, the whole universe is threaded into me. I am the thread. And every object is like a bead or like a pearl, and so the whole universe is a very beautiful necklace of different kinds of jewels and different kinds of beads and different kinds of pearls. They're all in a beautiful, harmonious necklace. The necklace looks very beautiful because of the thread. If the thread were not there, all the pearls and all the jewels would have scattered away. But then they are not scattered. Thus there is a harmony, and that harmony is of the nature of yajna, of the nature of self-offering or self-sacrifice. So we may say that for all practical purposes, our connection to Ishvara, if you want to bring Ishvara into your life, what will you do? Do what Ishvara is doing. What is Ishvara doing? All the time offering himself. So there is a sukta called Purusha Sukta. It says, Yajnena yajnam ayajanta devaha. Devaha yajnena yajnam ayajanta. All the gods offer Ishvara into the fire of sacrifice. And that's how the whole universe came. So Purusha Sukta describes how Ishvara offered himself. As a result, this whole universe. Thus, the universe in fact began. This is how our way of describing the origin of universe. Apart from saying it is from space and air and fire and water and earth but then another way of describing the very source or cause of the universe is nothing but yajna. It's a spiritual way of describing, or the real way of describing, that Ishvara is in the form of yajna, that informs everything. That is what maintains the order. That's what maintains the harmony. And that's the reason why all the various elements making up the universe, they all function in harmony. They all function in the spirit of cooperation. Even though Darwin and company tell us there is competition, but competition means what? Not like competition that's in a human being. The animals and nature doesn't compete like that. That you kill the other fellow. They compete only for their survival, and they do not draw from the nature more than what they need. And they leave the rest for other creatures. It's not that a bird eats up everything that is there. It eats up. Its stomach is full, flies away, other birds come. Sometimes a squirrel seems to be driving away everybody else, but I guess, anyway, they must have a bigger stomach, I guess, but they don't allow any birds to come near. But still, they also just eat what they require, and They don't compete in the sense of deliberately hurting somebody. At the most, they compete for their own survival. Because survival is dear to every living being. And fortunately, there is in this creation, there is provision for fulfilling the need of survival. We have problems in the human society, we have problems with food. Only because we consume much more than what is required for survival. We hoard, we store, we consume, we waste, we squander, we do so many things with the resource available that it looks as though there is not enough, but otherwise nature gives enough for maintaining the survival of the living beings. So it's not the competition that I want to be bigger than you. See, when human being competes, then he wants to be bigger than somebody else. He achieves his goal at the cost of somebody else. That kind of violence you do not find in nature. The kind of violence that prevails in the human society, where a human being is totally insensitive or callous to the needs and the requirements of other creatures, other living beings, and he is simply devoted to or consumed by fulfilling his own desire at any cost, so that kind of callousness or violence is not there in nature. So the point that we are making is that in nature, if there is violence, it is only to maintain the order and maintain the balance. It is not violence in the sense of destroying something. Therefore, if you leave the nature alone, it will perpetuate, it will go on. If at all this nature is destroyed, his human being will destroy by abuse of his free will. Otherwise, if you leave the nature to itself, it will maintain its own balance. When we meddle with the affairs of nature, we start building all the roads and buildings and cut all these forests and then complain that there are now deers, and you kill all the predators also. Now the deers, there is a big population of deers, now they become a nuisance and they come in the way of our traffic, or whether we come in their way or they come in our way, I do not know. But anyway, we say that the whole earth belongs to us, and when we are going, nobody should be on our way, so the deer has no right to be there, and so they should be killed. So we create problem, and then by violence we solve the problem. That's a human way of solving the problems or creating problems. But in nature, you don't find that kind of a thing. Thus, there is no violence in nature. There is no pretension in nature. Nobody pretends to be different from what they are. Human being can do that. What is inside is one thing, what is outside is something else. And sometimes for the whole life you do not know that what was inside that person was different. Sometimes spouses do not know each other, for a number of years and whatever. Sometimes you don't know friends, partners, you don't know them. And this fellow is my partner. I inducted him into my company and I made him a partner and this. And then I went for a vacation for 2 months, and when I came back, I was not allowed to enter the doors. I was nowhere, I was out. That all human beings can do. This kind of cheating, this kind of pretension of appearing as a friend and acting as an enemy, this stuff is, although we see in these Aesop, the fables, and that's all our creation, that animals also act like human beings, that I guess is just to teach lessons. But they don't have this pretentiousness. What they are inside is what they are outside, that's all. A dog is a dog inside and a dog outside. And a snake is a snake inside, a snake outside. Human being can be a snake inside and an angel outside. He can be that. But a snake cannot be. What is inside is what is outside. Because they don't have that kind of a choice, I guess. Therefore, nature reveals itself as it is. Not something, there is no falsehood anywhere, there is no violence anywhere, there is no pretentiousness anywhere, there is no cheating anywhere, nowhere in nature. And that is the reason why there is harmony. There is unity in the diversity. In all this diversity, there is still oneness. That unity or oneness is what we call Ishvara. But then, this is what Ishvara is then. So, to us, the explicit manifestation of Ishvara is in the form of yajna or self-offering, in the form of non-violence, in the form of cooperation, in the form of self-offering, in the form of truthfulness. This is the basis of all the values in life. So when people say, I don't believe in Ishvara, now which Ishvara they don't believe in? If you do not believe in God who is in heavens, that's okay. They have a problem with their father, I guess, and therefore they have a problem with Ishvara. I don't believe in Ishvara who is meddling in my life. I believe in Ishvara who is a harmony of the whole universe, but not a personal God who meddles in my life. So personal God, I guess, means a God who is different from us and different from the universe. So we are not talking of Ishvara who is totally different from the universe. And further, is he different from us? Next important point is that this harmony, this self-offering, this goodness, what is after all non-violence, as we see, in nature is nothing but the manifestation of all goodness, is not so? Manifestation of innocence, manifestation of beauty, manifestation of goodness, manifestation of divinity. That's what nature is. Next question that Vedanta will ask is, where is that divinity? Where is that goodness? Where is that harmony? Is it out there? Then Vedanta teaches. This is the teaching of Vedanta. Tattvamasi, that thou art. Hey, that harmony, that goodness, that divinity is not there, it is you. So Ishvara is very intimate to us. As far as we are concerned, Ishvara is all these beautiful things, all right. At the same time, he is not separate from me, he is not away from me. He is my own self. Meaning that this non-violence or truthfulness or all this harmony and beauty and divinity which we see in the universe and nature is nothing but our own self. I can't believe it, Swamiji. I am Ishvara. See, when we say you are Ishvara, it is not in the sense that you can create a world and you can lift mountains and do some kind of miracles. Not in that sense. There's another problem. Problem that scientists have is that Ishvara is always presented as performing all kinds of miracles. And they have a problem with miracles. Scientists have some kind of problem with miracles because they can't accept miracle. Everything has to follow the laws of science. If it doesn't follow, it's not there. Or there cannot be miracle because nothing can ever transgress the laws. It's a miracle today, but tomorrow we'll understand it will no more remain a miracle. They're quite confident. So miracles they don't like. And a God who is performing miracles, they don't like that God. He's intimidating us by performing miracles. They don't like that God. So the people have a problem with God, and atheists declare themselves as non-believers in God, is this kind of God, but not the God that Vedanta presents. They never listen to Vedanta, I guess, or whatever, but then Vedanta presents a God who is manifest as this whole universe and who is our own self. So, generally speaking, when we use the word God, what comes to our mind is a creator, a sustainer, a dissolver, omniscient, omnipotent, etc., which is fine. But the aspect of God which is most relevant to us in this particular discussion, that also is relevant, but right now what is most relevant is that He is harmony. Harmony of the nature of yajna, harmony of the nature of cooperation, goodness. that this universe is manifestation of goodness. Universe is manifestation of love. Upanishad says, Anandad jeva khalvimani bhutani jayante, anandena jatani jivanti, anandam prayanti, abhisamvisanti. That from Ananda, from wholeness, this universe arose. By Ananda, by wholeness, by happiness, by love, it is sustained, it goes back, meaning it's pervaded by only goodness or wholeness or Ananda. Thus Vedanta teaches us that universe is a manifestation of Ananda, wholeness, oneness, unity, harmony. And that is never apart from myself, which means that Ananda or wholeness is my nature, which is what we have been discussing. So what is myself is the self of the whole universe, understand? Ishvara is not apart from me, he is my very self. And therefore, to act in keeping with the harmony is nothing but to act in keeping with this inherent goodness or this sacrifice which is my nature. That is how our life becomes yoga, when we follow this harmony. Just a while ago, somebody asked me this question, Swamiji, how do I see God in everybody? It's very difficult. The person's behavior is such, and how can I see God in that person? How can I? See, we have no difficulty in seeing God in flowers, in leaves, in plants, in mountains, in rivers, in birds, in squirrels, in rabbits, even in lions, in horses. You have no difficulty, meaning that it seems to be quite possible or relatively easy to see Ishvara there. The problem is when it comes to human beings, and that is where the problem is. When the person asks me how to see God in everybody, means how to see God in other persons. My answer was that let us start with our own self. Let us start seeing the Ishvara in our own self. What aspect of Ishvara? That Ishvara is harmony, He is goodness. See that in your own self. When I do not see that in myself, if I think that I am a sinner or I'm a whatever, meaning that when I do not see that goodness in myself, it is difficult for me to see it in other places, on the people. When I will see it in myself, I will not have much difficulty in seeing it in others. See that you are a loving person. See that you are a good person. You are a kind person, a loving person. That is what you are. No, Swami, you don't know me. But still, Vedantin will say you are. Come back to what we said yesterday, that there are two aspects in everything, in us also. One is inherent, other is the incidental. So we will see in our own self both these aspects. I'm a loving person also when it comes to a few people. My own people, I'm very kind and loving. When it comes to people who hate me, who don't like me, then I'm a different person there. I become quite harsh. I can even become cruel. So it's amazing. How can these contrary attributes of love and hatred, how can they stay in the same place? They cannot. Like day and night cannot be in one place because they are mutually exclusive. Similarly also, love and hatred, how can they stay in one place, in one locus? And still we find them. Which means that, how are they in one locus? How can the contradictory things be in one locus? I'll give you an example. How can a pauper and a multimillionaire, can they be in the same place? A poor man, a beggar on one hand, and a multimillionaire, can both of them be in the same locus? Now you should be able to tell me. When can it be? So all replies are given by all our regular fellows. I thought some of these people will oblige, But when an actor who is a very wealthy person is playing the role of a beggar, then we see this strange phenomenon that a poor man and a wealthy man, both of them are in the same locus. They are, but not really. Because one is incidental, other is inherent. The wealthy person is inherent, the beggar is incidental. They can remain together because the incidental does not affect the inherent. The beggar does not affect the wealthy person, the actor. So in spite of begging also, he continues to remain a wealthy person. So also when we find in our own heart these two contradictory nature of love and cruelty, both are there. But then they cannot enjoy the same degree of reality. See, things having different realities can be in one place. Like me and my shadow can be in one place also. I am only 5 feet so inch, my shadow can be 10 feet long. Because it is incidental, it is unreal, it is mithya. Meaning my shadow does not enjoy the same degree of reality as my body. And so also that cruelty does not enjoy the same degree of reality as love. Both are there. Love is what? Inherent in me. What is cruelty? Incidental. Because of unintelligent living. These fellows have entered into our mind, our heart. This kama, krodha, lobha we talked about in the morning. They are all the intruders. They are not really my own self. They are intruders and they are incidental there, meaning that I allowed them to enter my house unintelligently. Sometimes when we don't know, when we can't really recognize the person correctly, then the fellow who appears to be our friend, we let him in our house and then he opens a gun. Similarly also, these fellows were allowed by us as our friends. Anger was allowed by us as our friend. As a child, anger I thought was necessary because there were my elder brothers and sisters and some harassing me and other people. I would scream, I would do that and then scare them away, and so it was a very useful thing. The greed also was necessary because I did not know whether I'll get an allowance in next month or not. Therefore, I'll pile up something and So that greed also was necessary, anger was necessary, everything I thought was useful to me. That is how I allowed them to enter and take their place in my heart. Now they become the rulers. In any case, they are not my nature. They are only incidental. Therefore, they can be driven away. And that's what we have to do. What I'm saying is, when we say that Ishvara is my own self, it means that this love and kindness and goodness is my essential nature. Even though I may appear to you as a harsh or cruel person, or I may appear to myself also as a cruel person, I may brand myself as an unkind or cruel person because I am suffering from that complex, let us say. Even when I judge myself that way, I am not that. I am, as I said, a loving, kind and good person. And that's what you are. That's what every living creature is. No, Swami, you cannot tell me that. But trying to tell me that this terrorist also is a loving person? Is a kind person? Today only I was reading the account in New York Times, what's happening in this Newark city and how all kinds of homicides and where is kindness? Swami, it's nothing but cruelty. But there again, we would say that this cruelty is out of compulsion, out of some pressure. See, love does not require any pressure. Cruelty requires pressure. Truthfulness does not require pressure, but falsehood requires pressure. Honesty doesn't require pressure, dishonesty is out of pressure. You will find, whenever I deliberately tell a lie, there is some pressure inside which forces me to tell a lie. What's the pressure? I'm afraid of speaking truth, because if I speak truth, then what will people think of me? What will they do to me? Some kind of fear is there. If I'm honest, I'm truthful, is my fear, my insecurity very often, which pressurizes me or compels me to violate that value, meaning that all these opposite qualities are out of compulsion, out of helplessness, not out of choice. Meaning that given a choice, nobody would want to be a cruel person. And the one who appears to be a cruel person also, give that person the right conditions. Can you imagine a tiger, for example? Can you imagine a tiger being a kind or loving thing? To its own little children it is, but no, to you also, to you and I also, depends on how we relate to that. Here is this forest officer somewhere in India, and this fellow was very fond of having pets. Wild animals were his pets, because he knew how to relate to them. And among the pets also was a female tiger. And she really loved this person, he also loved her. But this forest officer needed to go on tours every now and then. When he would leave, this tiger would feel abandoned, like our children may feel when we go away, I guess, whatever. And she would get upset. When he would come back, she would not talk to him. She would go to him. Really, literally, this is a true thing. Then it would take some time. He has to really be with her, caress her, please her, and it will take some time. Whatever he needs to do to that female tiger, give her some food and make her feel loved. When that happened, when that resentment or anger went away from the tiger, then she became her loving self, and she will start then licking this fellow. That's what they do. What does a dog do? He licks. This also would lick him. That's a very tough thing, because this tiger has lots of thorns in the tongue, and when she licks, his skin is removed. But the idea is that's her way of expressing her love. But they said even a tiger also is a loving animal. All it requires is the right conditions. And thus, in us also, if right conditions are there, each one of us is a very loving person, because that is our inherent nature. There, we will remind you of that, our common example of a piece of sandalwood. Sandalwood is fragrant by nature. However, if sandalwood also is kept in water for a few days, then its outer surface becomes rotted, and that piece of sandalwood also becomes stinking. So now in this sandalwood, these two contradictory qualities are together, fragrance as well as stink. If you do not know the nature of sandalwood, you think it is a stinking piece of wood, we'll throw it away. But the person who knows sandalwood knows that the sting is only superficial. When he rubs that against the stone, then the outer stinking surface is rubbed off, and the fragrance, which is its nature, becomes evident. Similarly also, because of unintelligent living, we the sandalwood, with unintelligent living, have become rotted only on the outer surface, and we stink. And that's why sometimes anger, sometimes jealousy, sometimes greed, sometimes harshness, sometimes violence, all of these seem to show up in me. But that is only superficial, incidental. But they will not go on their own. Something needs to be done. You have to rub it. That's called yoga. The rubbing is called yoga. A life of yoga is a life of rubbing this sandalwood, which is our own nature, so that this outward stink slowly and slowly gets removed, and the natural fragrance, which is this is Ishvara. That's what, after all, Lord Krishna. What is Lord Krishna? Apart from lifting mountains and other miracles, if you leave aside the miracles, then what is Lord Krishna? Nothing but love and joy. What else is it? Lord Krishna is embodiment of love, embodiment of joy, embodiment of freedom. But I guess to attract us to him, all the other miracles also are there, that's okay. But otherwise, basically, if he performed all the miracles, but he was a cruel person, we would not worship him. We are not worshipping miracles, and we may think so, that we have fascination of miracles, but then ultimately we respect that inner goodness. That is what we really love and really respect, because Hitler may be a very great person, very powerful, but you don't respect him because inside he was not a kind person. Of course, inside he was, but at least he doesn't get that respect because he appears to us as a very cruel person. So what the human heart really respects is not even wealth. We have this false notion. We think that we don't respect wealth for the sake of wealth or power or anyone's sake. What we really respect and love is that goodness and the fragrance, which is what, when we find another person, that is what we respect. The wealthy person you respect because he is useful to you or whatever, some kind of pressure must be there for you to respect. We respect power and wealth also because of some pressures. Because he is a potential donor or his connections can be useful, whatever it is. That's why you reach out to them. That doesn't mean they are not good people, but when you worship or when you respect wealth and power, it's out of some pressure. But when you find a person is good without any pressure, naturally you like that person, you respect that person. Because our heart basically respects only goodness. Because we love goodness, but that is our nature. See, what you love is your nature. So this is how Ishvara is very intimately involved in our life, understand? If you understand Ishvara this way, understand Ishvara as the harmony, and harmony as the yajna, and yajna means offering, and what can you offer? You can offer something which is inexhaustible, otherwise you get exhausted. Any material thing will get exhausted today or tomorrow, but this will never get exhausted. Love, if you offer, will never get exhausted. Your goodness you can keep on offering, it will never get exhausted because it is infinite. That's what we call boundless. Thus, that boundless goodness, that is what you and I are, and therefore one should not hesitate in offering that, because more you offer, more you tap into your own source. So this is how the life of yoga is life of offering. But offering what? Offering my own self. Which self? Which is nothing but my love or kindness or goodness. The action becomes a vehicle of offering that. Is it not so? When you offer food to Lord Dakshinamurti, you think he's hungry or something like that? We of course think that all that we are feeding him. Lord Krishna also says in the Gita, Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam, Yome, Bhaktya Prayachati. When you offer a leaf or a flower or a fruit or water, I very happily enjoy that. If it is offered with love. If Duryodhana offers all kind of luxuries, Lord Krishna doesn't go there. He goes to Vidura's hut where he gets some leaf, with love. Because he himself says, Nanavapna vaptavyam trishu lokeshu kincha. In the three worlds there is nothing that is not mine because I am everything. I don't need anything. So offering in terms of a material becomes a vehicle of offering our own devotion, our love. Is it not so? Otherwise it becomes a formality. When the Christmas day, when you give a gift to somebody, that gift is nothing but an expression of your love. I would expect it. Otherwise, like in the weddings in India, when somebody's wedding is there, then you must give a gift. People keep a list of all these gifts. When my daughter got married, who gave what gift? There's a whole list. So when his daughter gets married, I will refer to my list. He gave me 101 rupees, that is what I will give him. That is all right. That's all vyavahara. That's not giving really, but it's all formality. It's Swami, we have to keep social context and we have to maintain the relationships and then it's all okay. So behind that is all utility and usefulness. And so, I mean, you help me and I help you. But offering is where there is no expectation of any reward really. When would that be? When offering itself becomes a source of joy, then you don't expect any reward. So that is why Lord Krishna teaches what he calls nishkama karma, meaning the actions performed merely in the spirit of offering without a demand of any personal reward or any personal, gratification. So this is how, when life is lived based on this spirit, then that becomes a life of yoga, because the primary value is yajna. Primary value is self-offering. Our action or karma becomes a vehicle for offering myself. Then that karma, that is yajna, which is what brings about the, what we said, inner purification. How does it do? We'll discuss further. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah.